Welcome back, everybody, to His Heartbeat. And I have a stunningly gorgeous woman here, Mary Beth York. And she's been in the beauty industry, but we're all in the beauty industry, aren't we? Sharing the beauty of the Lord. So
Yes. I
thank
love
you, Mary Beth, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sue, for having me on. I'm so excited. When I first looked into everything you were doing, I was just, right now, my whole body is just on fire. Holy Spirit confirmation. Oh
Oh, praise
my gosh,
God.
this is so exciting. So thank you. I am really grateful to be here today.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've been on an incredible journey.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
well, introduce yourself a little because there's just too much to share about you. I'll let you do that part.
Well,
And then,
I'll give you the brief
yeah,
bio.
okay.
I basically started out in the beauty industry when I was 19. I started out just as a receptionist in a really upscale salon, and I worked my way to managing both of their locations and learned all the back end business stuff. And then I started leasing out space inside of their locations for the makeup counters and jewelry. And so I kind of ran my business inside of theirs. So I learned so much and it was really exciting. I loved just being an entrepreneur and like having my own money, at all times. And
Hmm.
then I went on, I wanted to do the celebrity thing. Well, super quick, I'll tell you the first person's makeup that I ever did actually was on TV because we did this weekly show and somebody would come in and we would have to make them over live and like the makeup artist didn't show up. So I had to jump in and be the makeup artist. And I had gone to like modeling school in high school and like learned makeup, but totally different doing somebody live. But it was kind of a precursor of what was to come. So I just got the bug, and then every week I would do the show. And eventually their salon leases came up and the rent went too high. And I really wanted to work in LA. I wanted to work for the celebrities. So I went over to LA. I got hired on by Jose Bear on Rodeo Drive. And so it was really exciting, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it was very, it was just dark, the energy. And even though there was a lot of great experiences for me and doing all the celebrities and getting that whole glitz and glam, I was there long enough to be like, this is not for me. And I talk about how I could feel. I have a gift of discernment. I have a lot of gifts that God has given me with I pick up on so much and I could just feel like the grid underneath the city just felt like snakes to me. And I was like,
Wow.
there was too many things that could go wrong in your day. So I moved back and I opened up my first day spa in 1996. And I put in obviously makeup because I was a makeup artist by this time, having already worked on thousands of women. But I also put in facials and massage and clothing and jewelry. And so it was very much retail oriented in North Scottsdale, which was very like upscale, great clientele. It just made it easier, although it was seasonal. And then I opened up a second location at a resort in Carefree, Arizona. So about 5 years in, I started creating my own products because I would see the same problems over and over. So my
Mm.
firstborn child is my beauty ammo kit. It's 3 steps to wrinkles. So then I started launching my products through trade shows, spa conventions, and then I was lucky enough to get them on the Home Shopping Network, which was a big goal of mine. I don't know, I'd always just dreamed of being on there. So I went on to do about 100 shows on there. Which was super exciting, but also really challenging. I mean, it's a book in itself. I did create a clothing line, a hair extension line. I wanted a contest on QVC for a dress that I created called Rock Your Tube. And my hair extensions, I eventually got all of my products on Dancing with the Stars and lots of movie sets. So I would go in and out of LA doing Oscars, Emmys, Golden Globes, and then advertising it with my spas. And Bjork ambushes this, that, whatever, which is really what you have to do to create business. So as much as I loved it all, eventually it all did come crashing down like any good story arc, bring it to about page 100 when all is lost. Yeah, I just had the perfect storm of all kinds of things go on. And then there was a big shift, and I won't bore you with too many of the details. I'll kind of fast forward to where I am now, which is I launched my own podcast as well called Beauty Revival. And having super most important part, having become a a born again Christian along the way. And you never know you need to be saved until you go through all of these challenges. So I'd been through
Yeah.
a lot of challenges with my daughter and as a single mother, and she had fibromyalgia and Lyme disease. And
Mm.
I went through so much and even business and just surviving, through so many different things,
And
COVID.
your marriage too,
Yeah,
right?
and my marriage of 17 years collapsed also. So it was a lot to deal with, but it was never built on the true foundation that it should have been. I've learned
Yeah.
so much
So
since.
how did you come to know Christ? Because I had read in your bio that you were getting into the new age. Can you kind of
I
explain
was
the
very much
shift?
into the new age, and I think it's important to talk about because I just had a lot of supernatural abilities, and I still do. And I feel like if you don't understand them, the church doesn't teach the supernatural typically. So
Mm.
people turn to the new age to get answers. And it was finally Michael Maiden. I don't know if you know who he is. His church is called Church for the Nations. He's here locally in Phoenix.
Okay.
I would have flown anywhere to go see him. I saw him on Sid Roth at Supernatural, and he's just very on fire in terms of his sermons. He prophesies for people. He's very much about healing. They have like once a month prophetic nights where they're actually healing people. And I know I have these gifts to heal. I know I've been healed supernaturally. So it's super important, like to talk about all of these things. And
Mm.
I felt like churches in the past, like let's say Catholicism, and I don't want to just diss it. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic schools, but I remember being 4 years old and asking the nun if my dog went to heaven when it died, and she said no. And I was out right then. I was like, this is not a religion I'm going to believe in. And
Mm.
one of my Maltese of 19 years died 2 days ago, and it's really
Oh, I'm so
revived
sorry.
me again in terms of
Yeah.
my other mission, which is Meatless Mondays. But it's also just to honor her. And I know without a doubt that she's in heaven. And so it's kind of balancing what some of the church dogmas can teach. And I hadn't learned Christianity in a way that it was about having a relationship with Jesus. So
Mhm.
I know I have a relationship because he comes into my house, he turns on the lights in my bedroom. He has so many ways of communicating with me. I even have a Shamrock truck. It's the Shamrock food truck, and I made that my Jesus truck. And I could write a whole book on Jesus driving by and when he shows me that he's there, and he does. So for me, I have a true relationship with him now. And I did go through a 1 year school of ministry through Church for the Nations. And I learned the foundations. And I'm still trying to figure out my own gifts. I haven't 100% figured it out, but my book is in the final stages of editing, which is called Beauty Revival as well. And it's climbing the ladder of the beauty industry. My story with that, it's beauty, business, and breakthrough with a mission. And then about halfway through, I have a divine ambush. So people don't see it coming. And then it's about, aligning with your true mission and seeing yourself how God sees you. And especially in our society with women and aging and like tying back into everything you do, what is true beauty and the truth, the lie, and the miracle. And it's what you believe about yourself. And the reason I know is because I've worked on thousands of women. I still continue to, and I hear the same thing over and over and over and over. And I'll always say in my interviews, I decided at about the age of 19, 20 every woman I would do, and they were all like 40 and up. That was just the demographic of where I was, would say, just you wait, like, "Oh, just you wait, like how terrible it is to get older." And I just decided I'm never going to be that way. And I never have. I don't participate in negative affirmations. When people say them towards me, like I've had women, they start to look up at me as I'm doing their makeup. Like I can see they're trying to gauge, like, oh, how old is she? Comparisons, all of that. And they'll say something like, oh, our eyes are really starting to go, aren't they? And I'll say, excuse me, like I'm super dramatic, but I make it a joke, but I'm serious. I'm like, don't put your negative affirmations on me. Yours may be, but mine aren't. And so I just do believe what we think, is super important. And I think one of the biggest anti-aging secrets, which you have to know this, is that God restores all of your years. And I honestly think it's resentment, bitterness, unforgiveness that iron in the lines and make you look older. It makes you show it on your face. And
Yeah.
when you've forgiven and you walk, in the heavenly realm on a daily basis because you stay that close to Jesus and that aligned with your set point,
Yeah.
you look younger and you have
And
more energy.
yeah,
And
and you said walk in not only that you're forgiven, but forgiving others and not being bitter, letting go, letting God be the judge, not you. That literally
is our
can
avenger.
restore you even physically, right? That
Yes.
even can affect your skin and your. So tell
Yes.
us, how would you define a good biblical definition of beauty? How do you think God would define beauty or want us to?
I think the definition is really aligning with the mission that he has for you. And I
Hmm.
feel like he's put a mission inside of all of us. And I think I'm good at helping people figure out what theirs are. And truly, if you just ask a few questions, people usually get there really quickly. You just say, if you can do anything, what would it be without any restrictions? And they'll go right to something with children or babies or whatever it is. And then it's just, I always say taking inspired action that God helps those that help themselves. So if you start taking steps towards something, it's like you're putting your energy and your focus into it. And then boom, something will come from out here where now you're co-creating with God. And that's the difference from the New Age to Christianity too. In the New Age, you're manifesting. You're saying, I want this, I want that, I want this, and you're manifesting it all. And I was so good at that. I talk about it all in my books. I've manifested freeways and cars and celebrities and crazy stories. But when you manifest with God, it's you're co-creating with the mission that he wants for you. And I feel like another way that is again, are the doors opening or are they closed? If you're banging and banging and banging on closed doors, it's not God's will. You have to go in the direction where the doors open. He says this way, this way. And granted, you may have those long wilderness seasons where you're like, did he forget about me? But eventually, like the divine timing shifts and you see his hand come down and you see things start to move. So I feel like the more that you flow with that instead of just refusing, looking in this
Yeah.
direction and saying, no, I'm not giving up, or this is what I want. And it's not what you want, it's what does God want for you. Although I do believe a lot of the desires that he puts in us are the things that he wants us to do. So we're not sitting here dreaming of being a firefighter, for example,
Hmm.
when,
Hmm. Hmm.
we're meant to do something completely different. So,
Yeah, one of our theme verse for Crown of Beauty is Isaiah 61:3, that he gives a crown of beauty. And at
mhm,
the end of it says to display his glory, his splendor. So I've been digging into this word glory, the glory of the Lord, because he says that he shall manifest, that he'll manifest that his glory through us onto others. And that's the definition in glory is not only talking about the brilliance, the light, like the consuming fire, the outward manifestation of that brilliance of light, but it's also dignity. It also means dignity in the scripture and magnificence and a sharing, a brilliance going out of honor. Okay,
mhm,
and so God, we display His glory because His glory comes and works through us so that we can walk around in confidence and know that we're honored and know that um, that we're valuable, that we have great meaning and dignity because we're living out the glory of God and displaying it to others. And so all that you're saying is He gives you those gifts, He gives you those abilities so
mhm.
that you can actually bring glory to God.
I
right?
love
And
that.
you're
Well,
displaying
everything is
splendor.
for his glory. I mean,
Amen.
that's the
Yeah.
truth. Yes.
Yeah, so he'll lead you in that. So, what would you say to help people? Because New Age is so popular right now and so tempting, but I think people fall into it and don't even know they're practicing a New Age, which is really like a
True.
cultic practice.
Yes.
Um, how do we, somebody's really wanting, healing, they want inner strength, they want that beauty, they want confidence, and so they seek out things and they end up landing into New Age practices. So, how do we identify those as being not helpful and not in
Well,
alignment
I
with
mean, the
God?
thing is a lot of them work, and that's what truly misleads people. Like, let's
Yeah.
say Reiki, for example,
Hmm.
energy healing. And I was never like trained to do Reiki. I just never liked the word, and even when I was in the New Age, like I would never do tarot cards. I just felt like intuitively, like they just felt dark to me, evil,
Hmm.
but then there's Doreen Virtue who did all of her angel cards, and I had all of the angel cards, and you think, how can this be how can this be a negative thing when you can do the cards and get like problem resolved, and now I'm peaceful because I know the problem's resolved and I'm going to see in an hour that it was resolved and my cards were right, like I had a lot of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you get addicted to it, and it's like addicted to knowing, and you're counting on those cards, and it's just not trusting in God, I feel. And so
Hmm.
for me, I've really turned to trusting him more, and, going directly to him with prayers, like let's say for healing, like I know
Hmm.
that he can do it like this. And when I see people that are going really long, hard ways, let's say to get healed with something, I just think, why aren't they just asking Jesus? And I have such a belief. I mean, my
Hmm.
prayers always get answered. And I I find that really weird too, because like from the littlest things to the biggest, my mom could be checking out of the hotel and I'll just pray, please, Lord, give her something extra, and she'll check out and be like, they just gave me an extra $100 off. Like all the little ones and
That's
then
awesome.
big ones. I'm like, wow, like my prayers get answered. So I always say with me, there's nothing to do with belief. It's knowing. Like, I know there's no scenario where God wants us sick. I was sick. I went through 5 years of chronic fatigue. I went through a lot of health issues, where I went down all kinds of paths. I was chased by the spirit of death. I followed Debbie or Becky Dvorak, who's written many books on it. And I just learned eventually, it's all renewing of our mind. If the enemy wants you to think, that you're open to these attacks, and I would start to feel symptoms coming on, and instead of listening to that suggestion even in my body and saying, oh no, I'm getting sick again, and all the negative affirmations toward it, which would always result in me having full-blown episodes, instead I would say, oh no, not today. Again, dear Jesus, please put your hand on every cell in my body. I reject any spirit of sickness. The gates of hell will not prevail against me. Your word says, no weapon formed against me will prosper. And part of my miracle code praying, which I do with a few friends of mine, is I say the prayer, and then I have a friend too where we'll visualize together the outcome that we want, and then we'll react to each other as if it happened, which is super powerful. I talk about it in my book and I call it the miracle code. And again, it truly is just the faith of a mustard seed, whereas like in the new age, Esther Hicks, the medium
Mhm.
person that teaches all about what is it, the secret and how to manifest, is getting your vibration up as high as you can. And it's true, those things work. And like one of the things that I noticed the difference with God is you don't have to be in a high vibrational state. You could be in a horrible state and just have the faith of the mustard seed, and you do the prayer with somebody. And I've done it where I'm like, I have no hope. I like honestly, and I'll have a friend just be like, right now you need to come into agreement with me, and I'm like, whatever. and I'm going to get to the power of your words. And this was over a lost animal on a huge 7-hour road trip. It had gotten out of the car and it was horrifying. I was 4 hours back in the desert when I realized the cat's not in the car. I'm delivering it to my daughter in LA. It was horrible. And I was hysterical. And he called and said, I come into agreement with me. And he's like, just the faith of a mustard seed. And I was like, okay. And I mean, I was crying. I wasn't in a high vibrational manifesting state. It was the lowest possible state. I just came into agreement with him and he started to do this really long prayer. And it was a great prayer, but he started to go down these roads of if we don't get the cat back, we're going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, no. I said, there is no option of not getting the cat back. I said, I will get the cat back. And the power of our words is so huge, so huge. And I hung up the phone from him and I'm driving 80 miles an hour, whatever, down the freeway. And I hear, and I was like, literally, and then all these other miracles happened afterwards. I pulled over, went through the entire car, was not in the car again. I'm like, I must have just been imagining that. But what are the chances right when I say that and he does the prayer, I hear the little meow, you know? So we start barreling back down the freeway. I had my daughter's dogs. It was just too much. But anyways, I hear it again. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I pull off at this gas station, go through the car again, and I happen to see her tail sticking out from underneath the airbag. And anyways, I'm like,
Oh,
how am I going to get her out of there now? And so I literally look around, and the only place I could see was this Harley Davidson dealership. I mean, there was other businesses, but I was like, I guess I'll just drive there. So I drove there crying. I get out of the car. I'm like, I need help getting this cat out of the car. And they're like, oh, you need the cat whisperer, like Jimmy or whatever he says. And big biker guy comes out all weathered and he's like, oh, what do you got going here? And he just gets some tools and takes apart my entire dash of my car. And I said, how, and I have a Mercedes. I said, how do you know how to work on my car? And he said, my last job was for Beverly Hills Mercedes dealership and that he had
oh,
that was in all the movies. So he was the cat guy in LA. So I'm like, what are the chances that I have this
yeah.
thing? We do the prayer and then I drive immediately to the miracle of not only getting the cat back, but this guy knowing how to take my car apart. Like you just can't make it up. So I
Yeah.
just have so many exciting stories that's what I'm sharing in my book. And, it's hard to feel defeated when you're going through stuff. And, it's so important to have friends that will remind you and just to have those techniques where you're praying, but with authority and you're using your word and you're standing on declarations and you're decreeing and decreeing, I'm very much into action. And that's why I really liked Michael Maiden in the church. I didn't feel like I had to sit on my hands and just not use any of the abilities that I knew that I had. They were all bad. They were all new age. Well, why does God show me everything that's going to happen beforehand if there's nothing I can do about it? The theology has to work. It has to make sense to me. And I guess we don't have to have every answer, but I'm just my belief is more about my reality with Jesus than it is my faith. It's my reality.
That's awesome. So how do you, um, in this world, the kind of things that you're sharing, a lot of people are very skeptical, right? Not thrilled. And yet you're having like this thriving beauty business. Do you bring this teaching into your
Well,
business?
I've just started, and part of it is, your platform is your ministry. And I
Mhm.
believe that God gave me this platform for a reason. And what am I going to do? Close it all down and go stand on the corner and look for somebody to listen to me? So what I'm doing is my philosophy is, reel them in with the outer stuff. And then as they get to know me, they learn all of the other. And so I meet them where they are. My new beauty revival podcast, I talk about everything from business. I give lots of business tips, having been a spa owner, creator of products, all of my experience in all of those categories, training people how to pay them. So I have that category. And then I have the beauty category as an esthetician, makeup artist. I have so much that I could teach on all of those tips. I'm hugely passionate about anti-aging. I'm a vegetarian, pretty much vegan for 30 years. I have a lot of teachings in terms of that, and how even if we just give up meat one day a week, the importance of how much it helps the environment, the animals, and your health. And so I have all of these different subjects, but then I'm also weaving in the supernatural. So I'm teaching how I created my products, how they supernaturally came to me. And I built up the foundation, and this is the same thing that I'm doing in my book, but then I'm starting to drop more and more truths. And it's funny because, like with Charlie Kirk and what just happened, I felt like as soon as it happened that it was the revival activation. I just went, wow. I mean, from the minute it happened, I went from kind of episode 13, I'm going to get there. I planted some seeds to being like, all right, I am all in. And you could see so many people doing the same thing. It's like we were all in our positions, we're all getting ready. And then his death I feel like it was a timeline activation where we've all even like shifted into another timeline where our whole reality is going to speed up and change, and we're going to be like ruling and reigning, like this is our time. So I feel like it's go time. I've spent the last 8 months, I wrote my book. It's in the final stages of the editing. I've laid the whole foundation of my podcast. I mean, just today, I'm like, oh my God, I have 5 new subjects that I have to do on. Whereas last week, I was feeling like before this happened, I was feeling like I'm not inspired. Nothing sounds like interesting, and so, but like today, I'm like activated, even after being bedridden over my dog dying. But that's also an activation, which I'm looking at it now and going, wow, this is so aligned that she just died because my grief reactivated my own mission with everything to do with the animals and the afterlife with them, and just the compassion around it, and eating, and like I said, how it helps the environment and the animal abuse and all of those things, which again, it's just another really great lane for my Beauty Revival podcast. So, and who knows, it may end up like shifting into something where I'm not talking about those things. I don't know, but I'm just casting a wide net because I feel like, and people are finding me all over the world. I see the analytics, and there's people all over the world that are catching a podcast of mine here or there. So I just hope that I'm doing it right, and that as I go, I'll get more help, the right help. But I have a never-ending supply of content, and I just feel like I've worked my whole life to be in this position. And I'm so on fire. I live a narrow path. I'm celibate. I'm like 24/7 about Jesus, and just being in alignment and doing what he wants me to do. So
So
I'm,
you've been around a lot of Hollywood stars and famous
yes.
people, and you're visual now online and in social media. So are you getting any kind of reaction from people, and are you also having some that it's bringing an openness in their heart to Christ?
I don't know. And I'll have to say, I was just doing my podcast audio, which I loved because it's just so easy, and I was on this big podcast, a celebrity reporter that ended up in the middle of this whole Justin Baldoni thing. And she had me on her podcast talking about behind the scenes as a celebrity makeup artist. And I was telling a couple stories of celebrities that weren't very nice, like Sharon Stone, I doubled for back in the day, and I won't repeat it all, but I told, some little stories. And I got so many new clients, listeners, watchers, followers, sales. Like it was over the top. And I only talked like 5 minutes at the end about my products, but like for the next 6 weeks. every 3 minutes orders were coming in, and people just love the authenticity of the conversation. So I've been back on her podcast now a second time, and we just talked about like aging in Hollywood and how not to be. And I like to give my Christian perspective in a way where I'm not necessarily saying, I'm born again Christian, but I'm saying, our role as a female is not to, be 50 running around in bikinis, as a thirst trap, trying to compete with 20 somethings, acting like we never age. It's our job to teach the younger ones like how to age gracefully and how to be. And for me, it's connecting with the mission. So I do talk authentically where I'm saying everyone has a mission, here's how you can follow me. But I feel like that's better because then I'm more likely like to find people that aren't already Christian. So they may like what I have to say. And then the more that they listen to me and all those other categories, like my book, and I really hope it lands like I'm hoping that it does, when you see it all and you tie it all together and you can see that, no matter what kind of success you've created with your husband, I had a dream husband, magazine covers, us, it was amazing. My business couldn't be more, you know, like successful from an outer viewpoint. And then to have it all fall apart and for me to choose now, I mean, any decisions I've made have always been like my daughter comes first. Like I could be much further off if I didn't pick her up from school every day and drive her to school every day, but like I made those choices and decisions. But back to the platform. So how did they react? You know what? Some people were rude. Some people, and it was hard for me because I'm not used to looking at all the comments. And the first time I was on, the comments were all amazing. And I was like, oh, so relieved. Everyone was so nice, so nice. But then the second time, she had teed up our episode with like Hollywood makeup artist dishes. It was something in her title. So again, like I, as a Christian, I don't want to sit there and name names of who was rude and who was mean, So I didn't do it as much. I just kind of would lightly turn, and she didn't ask a lot either. It wasn't a big part of the conversation, but we were talking about like plastic surgery, and we never said, don't ever get plastic surgery. We were saying like people take it too far, but I would love to do a spoof interview on the interview they reacted like we did because the comments, I mean, I'm just sensitive, but literally somebody said, speak plainly because I had said divinely orchestrated. And I did address it in a following interview or podcast where I said, over 1 billion pieces of content are being created daily for YouTube. And what is the point of me coming out here if I'm not going to be authentic? And to say divinely orchestrated is a very authentic term that I use. And if you're offended by it, like move on. Whereas the people that it's code word for, something else is there and coming that is real, that is authentic. And as far as me being born again, I do talk about it. I have my testimony episode already up on my thing, but it doesn't mean that somebody will get to that first, and I feel
Mhm.
like, is everybody ready for a testimony interview? I mean, maybe, but I look around in our society and feel like people need to be gently pulled out of our
Yeah,
society.
it's
And
true. I agree.
it's like this is with Charlie Kirk, even going back to like him talking on college campuses and saying, abortion is even wrong if you've been raped. Okay. Like this is one thing they're saying on the left that is triggering about Charlie Kirk. Or if you go and have, 5 drinks with a guy, go back to his dorm room and he pushes himself on you, is that considered rape? And he may have hesitated. I don't know the exact story, but the college girls are often running with he's a monster. And the thing is, you have to be slowly pulled out of it all. It's like coming out of,
Yeah.
India and going back to the desert, it takes time and you get there in stages. And so
Hmm.
you may just decide, okay, abortion isn't okay, accept and erase, but then like it may take you another year to really have Jesus show you that with his heart, or maybe he does put a person in front of someone's path and they get there sooner. So my technique is more to be a little bit gentler with it, but also being real and honest about how I live. Like I don't drink alcohol anymore. I might have a tiny little bit, like a splash of rosé in my drink here or there, but that was a big part of my life and my
Hmm.
culture, the whole drinking culture. And it works, when you're having a hard day and you know, you're really going through it. A huge glass of Chardonnay, like, really hits the spot. But, when you really learn, even last night, I fell asleep to something. And again, it was just God saying, like, that was all put there by design. Like, why aren't there ads everywhere for green juices? It's like,
Mm.
we're being deceived with
Yeah.
how we're being pushed to our own
Yeah.
demise, and his rules for us are for our own good. And
Yeah.
so like fornication, like, again, if you're not dating to be married and you decide to do that because whatever reason, good luck, seeing clearly, because now you have no critical thinking, you're bonded to that person. Your breakup is going to be way harder. He's trying to protect us. And so,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
if you're not raised that way, and even if you are, I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
those people rebel against it and go
Yeah.
do something crazy, eventually
Yeah.
maybe come back. But you've got to evangelize, I feel, in a way that people can relate to, which is celebrity makeup artists, beauty tips,
Yeah.
but also just gently guide them to a life that's going to be better, not
Yeah.
counterfeit.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, I think you are really speaking to the American culture today that you can't, like in the old days, you walk up and pass out a tract and say, "Can I talk to you about Jesus?" And like, okay, I remember doing that, and now you do that, they're going to run the other way or I'll slap you. So I think,
Yeah.
and also because you have the platform that you have and the people that you're talking to are, as you put your words, like really, and you felt a lot of darkness there. And there is a lot of darkness in that world. And I think bringing the light, and I kind of think of the analogy where to help my sleep, I've been turning all the lights down at night, like way down, lower, lower, lower. And and so I just have a candle in the bathroom, taking a shower and everything. And then I had to go out into the kitchen for something. And I go out, and my husband's got blow every light on,
Yeah.
because he's going to be
Oh,
up
yeah.
2 more hours. And I was like, oh man, I could hardly see, and it's kind of like that. If we go to somebody who's just living in this culture right now
Yeah.
and with
Sleeping with their TV on all night and like you need
But
silence.
but no, a drinking culture, some
Yeah.
drugs and sexual culture and money, money, money and da 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 and be fake, fake, fake. And then you come in and say, "Oh, you just need Jesus. He changed my life, and now I'm just so joyful and I have the peace of the Lord." It's like that bright light
Yeah,
that's just blinding.
it's
And
true.
all those things are true. And I can talk that way at my church and with my friends, and they like it. It helps them, but I can't talk to a lot of my neighbors that way without like absolutely freaking them out and shutting them down from having another conversation with me.
Well, I do think a lot of it again is your audience. And as much as we're talking Hollywood, like a lot of my audience has been women 40 and up, and a lot of single women, and even women that have lost their husbands, because
Mm.
that's something I've seen over and
Yes, a
over having
lot.
had older clients, their husbands pass away. And they just feel like devastated. And so either they have this hole that, you go to dinner, happy hour, whatever, and every woman, all they want is to meet a man. And again, if I say this on YouTube, then somebody's like, not every woman. Well, of course, not every woman,
Yeah,
but
you're, I
of
get,
the
yeah,
women
in
that
general, and
I
a
have
lot of
been
the women that
around,
you're
and
with.
it
Yeah.
it depresses me because I feel like, you know, you have to go through that breakup season, whatever it is, to become single, but you have to do it the right way. And you have to, for me, I just feel like my connection with Jesus has been the only thing that has filled that up completely. And I still struggle. I still have challenges, but like I know where to plug back in. And I feel like they're looking in the wrong plug, you know? And I watch them go from relationship to relationship, pulling it along like a dead body bag, thinking he's the one, I'm smitten. This is the guy for me. You know, that's
Yeah.
their answer, is finding a man. And
Yeah.
feel like once you get into your mission, then if God has one for you, that's when he will come. So it doesn't
Mhm.
mean you're giving up on it. It just means that your chances of finding someone that actually, like I call it a flawed premise. If you're not a Christian and aligned, like your relationship is doomed. And maybe you're so codependently attached that you're never going to let go of each other. But is that healthy?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not the same as two people that understand the principles of how God wants us to live and live
Yeah.
them. So, yeah.
Well, we have a few more minutes, so I have a beauty expert here. So we'd love to get, some ideas, some beauty tips, and share with us about your products.
Okay, so my products are all vegan, all natural, hypoallergenic. Like I said, I've worked on thousands of women, so I've gotten rid of anything at all that's like problematic in terms of breaking out or reacting to. And my specialty has always been 5 minute makeup because over all the years, everyone's in such a hurry. And I've gone from 30 minutes to 15 to 10 to 5 to 2. I can do 2 minute makeup. But women all tell me the same thing. You know, they want to look younger. They want something that's super fast and easy. No woman knows how to do their makeup. So nothing. So I just go through and I fix everything like boom, 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 boom. Like I have a brow product. It's called Supernatural Brow. It has castor oil. You just brush it on. It comes in blonde or brunette. If I do 30 women at a country club, 30 women buy it. Like it's so easy to use. And I always say the most important thing is what you put underneath. So my firstborn child is my beauty ammo kit, which is 3 steps to combat and camouflage wrinkles. And it solves the problem of concealer, powder, foundation, creasing, caking, making lines look worse. So that they use on Dancing with the Stars. I just had 2 TV segments this week for Dancing with the Stars and for beauty ammo, and talking about how I get called onto sets to put it on like Brad Pitt, George Clooney, the guest of Glee, blah, blah. But it's just 3 steps. If you just want to do under your eyes, it's amazing. That was my first product that I launched on HSN, and it's just my most unique product. It's a collagen eye mask, line putty, and a concealer, and it comes with an instruction thing. They're all numbered 1, 2, 3. My eyeshadow kit is called Paint by Numbers. I used to have to draw the eye, put stickers on everything, write down what brush to use. And so when I finally created that eyeshadow kit, and it's only $45, but it has 6 shadows, 3 brushes, and the foolproof diagram. It was twice featured on Today's Show. 5-star customer pick on HSN, works on all skin types, colors, tones. I'll tell you one lip color. Actually, I have one that's a little bit brighter on right now just because of being on camera, but it's called Capri. And it's like this shimmery, like mauve kind of pink that looks amazing on everybody. It's all natural. It's just that perfect color. And I wrote an article how I traveled the world looking for this color. It doesn't exist anywhere, which is true, but it's perfect. So, you know, I just have like my boom, 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 perfect things, my foundations. If anybody ever wants to email me or get on a Zoom. They're vegan, organic, gluten-free, SPF 27 aloe base with a little avocado oil. And then I have a little magical trio, which is my Lift and Snap serum, which instantly photoshops lines. It's just so important that you have the right like stuff underneath. And so that like will help instantly with lines with hyaluronic acid and arginine and just great ingredients. And my chemist puts so much of the active ingredients in that it's so strong, it even takes off tag moles. And then my Unpack Your Bags eye gel is amazing. Lightening agents for dark circles, natural retinol for fine lines, clinically proven to reduce puffiness. And then my Marine Magic moisturizer, which is the third step of that magical trio, is my red marine algae moisturizer. It's just super fresh. I mean, it comes in either lavender or lemongrass scent. I pick up everything fresh from my chemist. So it's nice it hasn't been sitting on a shelf forever. And my prices are good. I do lots of 3-day sales if you get on my little email list. And again, it's just things that people can't live without, and anything that's ever been problematic, obviously, I just get rid of it. But I feel competitive when I see people like Rihanna doing her 45 shades of foundation. My daughter, let's go see it. What do you think? And I'm like, a lot of room to get it wrong. So I've just eliminated anything that's like you're going to try it on in Sephora and then get out of the store and be like, oh my God, what was I thinking? You get home and most of it is landfill. So that's my little product commercial.
Awesome.
It was a
Thank you.
and
Is
my
it you?
website, I'll
Yeah,
just tell you
that's what
the
I meant.
website.
Tell
It's
me that.
mbyork.com. M is in Mary, B is in boy, York, mbyork.com. So yeah, it's all on
And
there.
that's your website. Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Mary Beth. This was really
Thank you. I
wonderful.
loved it. And honestly, I haven't done a whole lot where I'm just talking about my Christianity, which is my number one passion. So I'm excited. It's good practice for me with my book, Beauty Revival, which again, if you
Yeah,
get on
when will that be
my,
out?
well, my podcast, FYI, is also at the top of my website,
Okay.
Beauty Revival. If people want to check out my podcast, all those stories are on there. And then my book is going to be done in like the next 30 days. I'm praying it should already be finished, but we're giving it 30 more days. So just in time for holidays. So hopefully people will check it out.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. And
that's
I'll
great
send you
because,
a copy for sure. You can
oh,
be,
thank you. So, because, you won't be aired until November, it's perfect because
oh,
you,
so
you
yeah, check
guys
it
can
out.
get it for Christmas. That's
That
great.
would be
I love it. I
amazing. Oh
love
my
it. I love
gosh,
it. I
I'm
love it.
so excited. It was so much work, which you probably know, like holy mackerel. You think you're gonna write a
Well,
book, like
I
wow.
do know.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, well, thank you so much, you guys. Share this with others. It's encouraging, and check out our website. I want to and see what products might be right for you.
Thank
Okay,
you so much. I
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate today. This was amazing. And I want to support you too. So maybe we have you come back on my podcast and
I would love that. I'll
hear
hang
all
on.
about
I'll hang
everything.
on, but I'm going to let everybody else go. But you hang on, and
Yeah,
we'll
let's do
talk.
it.
That'd be great. Okay.
All
All right,
right.
everybody. You have a great day, and check out that website.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.